him too. Okay, I can tolerate that. I'm going to take him off because this guy is too young to flower. So like, you know, your kids are too young to ride the dog. Okay, you are too young to flower. So I'm going to remove the flower, and this guy is going to go in the ground. Now the other thing, as I do this guy can probably be planted just about at the depth he is. Like Karen was saying, some plants require to be planted at the depth they're growing. Tomatoes are not one of those, but there's not. I could bury it to here if I wanted to. So let's start making our hole. So you know, I'd like this tomato to grow into early October. I'd like to have tomatoes in October if possible. September is a good gardening month, and October should be too, or maybe even November. One of the ways I can get a tomato to go that long is to grow it so that it's a healthy plant before it blooms, before it does all these other things. So I'm going to think about its health and do what I can for it. So luckily I've got this bed, which if you look at this material I'm going to plant into, this is really well prepared. DJ did a great job. You can see small parts of clay. Okay, that's okay. It's a nice mixture. But I've also got a lot of compost in here. It's been mixed up, and that's a good mix. And it's so loose I can just dig it with this soil knife. That's the way we like it. We don't want to work too hard. We want to put the work in up front. So when it's time to plant, that work's been done. Now, if there weren't so much compost in this already, I could also put some compost down in the planting hole. And also, if the soil weren't this moist, I might even pour some water into the hole to just be sure that there's good moisture down where this plant's roots are going to be. I don't want it to sit down there in a dry place. Now, the amendment I'm going to give, as Karen said, our soils here they have plentiful amounts of all the minerals and nutrients that a tomato or almost any plant we grow needs, but they do not have nitrogen.
So you've had the soils here tested in this garden?
Yeah, no soil has nitrogen. Most of the soils I mean, the nitrogen is gaseous, not in the soil. No, we haven't tested our soil here, but the state, you know, they've been tested by the state throughout.
Okay.
So I'm going to add this. These are alfalfa pellets. I'm going to put alfalfa pellets in here. I'm going to kind of mix them in. If you wanted to use a fertilizer, you can use it. If you have fertilizer at home, you can use it. Make sure that it has a low, the number for nitrogen is 5 or less. That's going to get you, actually, probably most of the fertilizers that would have that amount of nitrogen will be organic. And they'll break down slowly. And actually, that's a good thing. The breaking down slowly is the same as time release, kind of. That there's a time release of the materials for the plant.
How about organic rock dust? That's what I use all the time.
Okay, I've never used that. I don't know. So the other things I'm going to just put around, I'm going to put some of these around the edge because this fill is going to be in there, and I often do that if I use any amendments, put it around the edges of the hole where I'm going to fill in around the plant. Now, here's another important thing to check. Oh, this is nice. Let me tell you why this is nice. This guy's just ready to go. He's just the right size to either go in the ground, or if the weather weren't right, we'd pot it up. The roots are they're very few on this side, probably because of how it was sitting.
What kind of tomato is that?
This is a pink ponderosa.
Oh.
And it's just really ready to go in the ground. So I'm going to sit it down in there, and because it's such a little guy, I'm not going to bury it very deeply. I'm going to remove these leaves. That's optional, okay, but I am kind of whatever, fastidious. So I'm going to remove them, and then I'm going to push the soil in around it. And I'm going to firm it somewhat, but not too much. And then, actually, I have water. I'm going to water it. So the other thing I'm going to do is just create a little basin, almost as if it were a fruit tree. I'm going to create a little basin around it so that it's easy. While it's a small plant, it's going to be easy for me to water it if I'm watering by hand. Otherwise, what I can do is, add my drip around it. I just choked it. add the drip around. So I want to water the guy in. This is going to get, if there's excess air around the roots, it's going to replace it with water. I'm just thinking I gotta really get in gear for this because we got a dozen tomatoes to pick. Tomato time. This may be a little bit much, but one thing you can do if you have a drip irrigation, and drip works great for tomatoes, is get some of it close to the plant because the root ball is right there. We know where the root ball is. There's no mystery about it.
You want to keep your leaves out of the dirt, is that?
I do, and in fact I could probably click these up. Thank you, Eric. The reason I want to keep the leaves out of the dirt is the wilts that really can decimate a tomato plant are the inoculum for them. The spores are soil borne. So they're in the soil, they're not in the air, they don't come from insects that feed on them, although there are diseases like that. But verticillium wilt and fusarium wilt are in the soil. They're fungi and their spores are in the soil. So, right, so what some people do when they plant, I mean this guy now I'm going to compromise, okay let me do it this way. I'm going to compromise its photosynthesis capability.
Trade-off of getting rid of some of that tall stem.
But I'm going to take those off so that they're not touching the ground. And even through the summer, often, in fact, one of our volunteers, we almost call her just to do this. Yes. Please, she loves to come, and because she feels so strongly about it, and she's a very seasoned gardener. She, lifts them up so that when the tomatoes are this big and bigger, she's pulling, the leaves off the ground. You can also mulch with something like straw, some material like that will keep them off the soil. Okay. And then, the rest of this irrigation you can put more loosely around it, and you can change how it's spiraled around the plant if you want to, through the season. The other thing we can do, which you can just imagine this, is we put a small bamboo stake here and tie this guy loosely to it. And when I tie him, I like to put a loop around the plant, twist it once, and then tie it to the thing so that you have kind of a figure of 8. So that then the plant is held kind of loosely. It's held, but it's not held so much that it will injure the stem with wind. But put that little guy on it and then put the big cage on, and then we're done.